We're gonna pivot a little bit. Dr. Corrales is going to give us a quick presentation on IRB, a topic that we all need to be familiar with and is a thankless job on campus. So I will just hand it off like that to Dr. Corrales.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's
Um,
okay.
Good morning. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay. So basically, I'm in charge of the IRB, which is human subjects research, the IACUC, which is animal research, conflict of interest, export controls, and a few other minor offices. So I'll just give a little brief description of each of those offices and kind of what they mean for new investigators and kind of try to help you navigate through compliance. First of all, I'm a former investigator, so I sympathize with investigators, sometimes much to the chagrin of my committee. So don't be afraid to approach us with questions or, issues that you might have. We're not here to crucify anybody or give anybody a hard time. We're here basically to make sure that everybody does things properly so that we don't get into trouble. You don't want to be the one who causes a loss of funding or accreditation because not only will the university not be happy, your department chair will not be happy, and everybody else. So, please do your best to be compliant. So the Institutional Review Board, our approval times are amongst some of the best in the nation. We are at or below the national median. Our full committee approval times for last year averaged 43 median days. Expedited reviews were 15 median days, and exempt reviews were 13 median days. So, median days means basically much of it is up to your study and also your response time. So, the one thing I want to point out is response times. I can look at all the response times. I can look at the times that studies have spent with the IRB or with investigators. And the one thing I have to point out is about half that time is time spent with the investigators. So one of the big pieces of advice I can give you if you're submitting is be responsive when one of the committees, whether it be the IACUC or the IRB. The sooner you answer, the sooner it goes back into the reviewers queue, and the sooner that they get it approved. So, like I said, those days are median days, but they can be quicker if you're more responsive and put together a good study. Just a piece of information. I am not a member of the IACUC or the IRB. I have actually very little sway with their decisions. In fact, they need to be independent of the university. So don't come to me and ask me to try and make them make a decision in your favor because that is not part of my position. I oversee them. I can advocate for you and often do, like I said, much to the chagrin of some of my committees. But I always have to state that this is my opinion only, and I'm not part of the decision process for those committees. So just be aware of that. And the IRB, we actually have two offices that can help you put together your proposals. If you've never put together a proposal before and don't know where to start, we have either the clinical research office, which is probably represented as one of your talks here. They can provide support, help you put together your study. They know what the IRB looks for and what the IRB needs. So I strongly recommend if you've never done it before, go in and chat with them and they can help you with your clinical study. If you have a social and behavioral study, we have our behavioral research office, which is akin to the clinical research office, except they support social and behavioral research, and they will do the same for you. They will sit down with you, help you prepare your study, help you get through issues, and they know what the IRB is looking for and what they need to get approval. And those offices, like I said, I highly recommend both of them. They are extremely helpful to our researchers. So definitely go and contact them. In many cases, if you come to me for questions you can very happily come to me for questions, I will refer you to one of those two offices because they can sit down and give you a lot more time than I can. So holdups, what holds up a study in the IRB? Kind of the most common thing is probably non-responsiveness. Like I said, I see studies sit with a investigator sometimes weeks or months without a request. When a reviewer puts it in clarifications requested, that means they're waiting for you to respond. Until you resubmit it, they're not going to touch it. So the faster you respond, the faster they'll go back to you. Sometimes they'll go back and forth with you several times, depending upon what they need, but sometimes it's just a single time. Another holdup is annual disclosures. Annual financial disclosures are required. We need to do a conflict of interest review on all of our human subjects research studies and on all federally funded research. So one of the things you need to have in place, and everybody on your study team needs to have in place, is an annual disclosure. The time is actually coming up when we're going to be filing our new financial disclosures for the next year. So for those of you who are already in the system, you'll get notifications of that, and please file your annual disclosure. I've seen many studies where there could be one person on the study who doesn't have their annual disclosure, and until they do, we can't approve the study. So make sure everybody on your study team has an annual disclosure on file, because that will hold things up. Another common thing that I see holding things up is training. In order to do human subjects research, you need to have training in place. And that goes for everybody on your team. If there's one person who doesn't have the proper training on it, they're going to hold up approval, because we can't approve a study until everybody has all the proper training. The training is for the most part done in city systems, so you can do it online. But again, everybody has to have that done, and we can review those what you've done through the city system. Another thing that I see is continuing reviews. So many studies require continuing reviews, those that go through committee or are expedited. I see people all the time waiting to the last minute to submit their continuing reviews. Even though you have a continuing review date, you need to make sure that you submit your continuing review in time for the IRB reviewers to review it and approve it. So don't submit on the day that your continuing review is done, because your continuing review is going to go into a queue, and sometimes it's going to take some time for a reviewer to get it. Often I will expedite studies that are time sensitive, things like just in time, or where funding is pending, or issues like that. I have very little sympathy when I see somebody procrastinating something to expedite your either continuing review or study when other people have done it diligently. So just want to point that out. So continuing review, you're going to get a 90-day, a 60-day, and a 30-day reminder from our submission system, and I can check that to make sure that you've got it. So I've heard people say, I've never got it, and I can say, no, it was sent out on such and such a date. You did, it was sent to you. So that's never an excuse. I didn't get the submission system. I think I've seen the system fail once in the tens of thousands of notifications that it's sent out. So make sure you get those continuing reviews in time. Usually 30 days is plenty of time for the IRB to get it reviewed. You don't want to submit those too early, because the new approval date starts when the IRB approves it. So normally if you would submit it like 60 days, they're probably not going to touch it until a few weeks before, just because they don't want to shorten your time of approval. So just a note there. But 30 days is usually plenty of time to get a continuing review in place. Non-compliance. Human subjects research, there's two types of non-compliance. There's just general non-compliance and serious non-compliance. Serious non-compliance is generally doing research without approval, and that could be doing research while your study is lapsed, or doing research that was not approved by the IRB. So you change something in your study, but you don't get that change approved. That's doing research without approval. The only time you can change anything in your study is if it has to do with subject safety. Otherwise, if you're contemplating a change to your study, you need to make sure that you submit it to the IRB and receive approval for that change before you do it. That's actually a common area that I see non-compliance. Lapse studies is another area of non-compliance. People submitting their continuing review a day or two before the review is due, and us not having time to review it is non-compliance on your part. Like I said, the IRB does need time to review it. And once your study lapses, you cannot do any work on that study, aside from perhaps items that may affect subject safety, like shutting down the study or something like that. Continuing it because it's going to wreck your study, well, that's on your problem, not ours. Serious noncompliance is reportable to the government. So if you do serious noncompliance, I am obligated to report it to the federal government. Also, minor things can be considered serious noncompliance if they're repeated. So, if you just get flagged with noncompliance and then you repeat it a second time, that's continuing noncompliance, which is considered serious noncompliance. So, just because you get a slap on the hand the first time, you do it a second time, that's called continuing, and that's considered serious also. Common things I also see is adding new personnel to a study. You want to add somebody, you have them begin work on the study before you get approval from the IRB. And when you add a new person, you need to make sure you need to submit a modification and need to make sure that that modification gets approved before that person begins anything on the study. If you do happen to find that you or your study team has been non-compliant, it's best actually to self-report that as an RNI. We always give points for self-reporting. If I have to ask you to self-report, I don't consider that self-reporting. But if you self-report, the IRB always takes that into consideration. When you self-report, what we want to hear is what happened, why it happened, and we want a corrective action plan on how you will prevent it in the future from happening again. That typically would include retaking training or perhaps training from the principal investigator. It's not just we won't let it happen again. That's not a sufficient corrective action plan. You need to have concrete items in a corrective action plan. So that's kind of the IRB for you. IACUC, if you need support with an IACUC study, please give our office a call. Also need to maintain your annual and triennial reviews. That's really important in the animal approval, because once your study lapses in the animal work, you need to stop all of your work on those animals, which again, if it's something in process, you're going to lose your data from that work. Those animals also need to be transferred over to another approved protocol, generally a holding protocol, which takes the laboratory animal facility and my staff time to do, and we don't appreciate having to transfer your animals to and from another study because you've lapsed in your approval. Also, if you need help with the animals, feel free to call the laboratory animal facility. So you can call the IACUC, but they're going to refer you to the laboratory animal facility. But if you need any help on performing anything, you want any advice on your animals, how they're doing, feel free to call the laboratory animal facility. I'm sure they're going to probably give a talk with you also and state that. So that's the IACUC side of things. Conflict of interest. All human studies and all federally funded studies, actually all funded studies at the university, need to have a conflict of interest review performed. And again, I talked about having your annual disclosure on file. If it's not on file, that's going to hold up approval or submission of your proposal, because we need to make sure that you have your annual on file before we can do a conflict of interest review. What you want to disclose on your annual disclosure. My advice is disclose everything. It is much better to disclose things that you're not sure you need to disclose. We can sort those out rather than not disclosing things. There's actually been a big focus on foreign associations and disclosing those lately. There's been a lot of issues with foreign associations. We don't want to discourage foreign associations, but you need to have them disclosed and also declare them, especially when you're going for federal funding. So be sure to disclose everything. That is my advice to you when you're disclosing things. All right. The next thing I deal with is export control, and export control is also becoming a hot item that we need to focus on more. It's what we're looking for is basically anytime you're doing any associations with a foreign government, a foreign team, or any foreigner, We would focus mostly on dual use type technologies. Those are technologies that you may not even know are dual use. So say somebody comes and they want you to develop a computer program or something, and it may have another use, say a GPS program to guide a car. Well, that GPS program could also be made to guide a missile or something. That would be something that we would consider dual use technology. And we don't want to discourage, again, any work with foreign persons or foreign governments or anything like that. We just need to know them and vet them to make sure that we can come up with, can make sure that the technology is controlled properly. So in some cases, we'll come up with what's called a technology control plan. That states, what type of safeguards you need to have in place to control the technology and what agreements you might need to have with the foreign person or foreign institution to make sure that that technology is indeed controlled. There's a few countries that we can't do research with. Those are probably more common ones. Russia is a bit highly regulated. North Korea is definitely highly regulated. Cuba is highly regulated, and a couple of other countries in the world. But for the most part, you can do research with just about anybody in the world if we have a proper technology control plan in place. Classified programs, we don't do classified work here at the university. We can do limited classified work with some of the companies that we work with, but that would be very limited. The same thing goes with ITAR programs. If there's an ITAR program, we do not have an ITAR program here, ITAR security program here at the university. We just don't do enough work on ITAR projects. We can do some limited computer-based online work and consulting work that may have some ITAR regulations, but a full program that's done in the lab, it would be extremely difficult for us to do. We just don't have an ITAR program in just because we don't have enough work. Now, if you have an ITAR program that you're interested in, please let me know of it. We will, like I said, look into seeing if we can do it or connect you with somebody who can do it, because we do have connections with companies that do ITAR work. And I also use that as kind of a measurement. We have considered putting an ITAR program in place here at the university. But again, like I said, we just don't have enough programs to validate the cost of it. It's an expensive program, but we're not against getting it if we had interest in the programs. So just a couple of odd things that I'll talk about is training programs. So RCR training is required by the NSF and HHS for all those studies funded by those. That would include undergrads, graduate students, and postdocs. So if you add any of those individuals to a program that's funded by HHS or NSF, they're going to need to take RCR training through the city system. And we monitor that on a monthly basis to make sure if you put somebody on your program, you may get an email from us telling you that you need to get the training for those persons. And we monitor that regularly, and we will suspend funding if those persons don't take the training. So be sure that your undergrads, grad students, and postdocs take responsible conduct and research training from the city system. And if you need help locating that, we have a person who manages our training program, Serena Dietz, who can help you find the city program that you need to take. But make sure you can get that, because we will suspend funding, because we've been audited on that on numerous times and found to be deficient on it. We finally got controls over it, but only when we started suspending funding. So you don't want to be in that case to have your whole study suspended because one person hasn't taken the training. A new training requirement is actually a security training, which is now required by the NSF and probably shortly by all federally funded studies. You'll be probably receiving an announcement very shortly on that requirement, and all investigators are going to be required to take that. And that's also another course that we have through the city program. So that's what I have for you. There's a lot more, I'm sure, that I could cover, but I don't want to take up too much of your time here, because I know it's important. You've got a lot of things to hear. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me and contact me with those questions. If I can't answer them, I'll put you in contact with the person who can. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thanks for taking the time, Rich. I know it's always a lot of content that you have to cover, but we appreciate it.